Alright, I am taking a look at the Anvil Asgard. I was pretty excited for this ship because, as I'm fond of saying, I love my Starlancer Max, but the Valkyrie was my first crush, and I've been giving significant thought to possibly trading in my Starlancer Max for the Anvil Asgard. Because it seems like its features line up with the types of gameplay that I like, and if we're being honest, this is probably a more sensible ship for a solo pilot. But I want to put that to the test and just take the ship out and see how it works for the gameplay loops that I participate in. And so basically that's going to be cargo, mining, and combat. And the Asgard, by all appearances, seems to be a Valkyrie that is just more useful, trading in its drop seats for increased carrying capacity and more weapons available to the pilot. It has a lot of the features that the Valkyrie has, like these door-mounted machine guns. That's just a good time right there. Of course, where you would have drop seats in the Valkyrie, it's now just a little engineering area. You still have a manned turret underneath the nose. You've got 2 bunks instead of 4 because this is now a 2-person ship. Of course, the most important room. Nothing much to see, right? It's a fucking bathroom, okay? Wait, do we get a bidet? Oh no, that's a shower, isn't it? Yeah, they got my hopes up. I thought we were finally going to step into the future and be able to wash our asses instead of wiping them with leaves. But no, those are temperature control knobs for a shower. Because I guess in the future this game is just gonna be like The Sims. Little food station. Oh, wait a second. Oh, they got me. I guess I have to keep the ship now. So yeah, this is mostly what you would have in a Valkyrie. This is the Valhalla paint, which I'm pretty fond of. I think it's a nice color. It's less of a copper and more of almost like a dusty rose. The pilot does get 6 size 3 guns. But to evaluate whether or not, the ship would replace my Starlancer, I need to test it. And one of the things that I'm interested in is the possibility of using it as a mothership for the Drake Golem, which apparently is a thing that you can do. So I wanted to try that. I'm not going to test it with rock mining just because there's really not much to test. That really just comes down to, can your ship carry rock? Yes or no? So that doesn't really matter. There's no variables there. If I'm being honest, it really doesn't seem like it should fit. But I'm going to find out right now. Son of a gun, it does fit. Now the question is, if I've parked my golem in the back, can I get the ore pods in from the side? And I'm gonna mark that down as a no. I don't think there's any chance those pods go in that way. And if they did, it would not be worth this amount of hassle. So if you're going to carry the Drake Golem with extra ore bags, you would need to load the bags up first.
Engines online.
And then bring the golem in. Look at that. It's gorgeous. Alright, so there's a few things that I want to test. I want to test mining with it, with the golem, see how well that works. I want to test combat, even though combat has become a pretty minor feature of my gameplay. I kind of stopped doing bounties around the time the master modes came out, but in theory, I might want to start doing them again, just to vary up my gameplay, and I want to see how well it does. Alright, let's get some bounties. Unfortunately, I don't have a very high rep with the bounty hunters. Like I said, I kind of stopped doing bounty hunting when Master Modes came out, and I have not pursued building up that reputation, so I'm gonna be stuck, grinding out some lower level ones. And maybe we'll get up to like medium risk or something, and get a juicier target. Now this is the stock loadout for the Asgard, with 6 size 3 Panther repeaters for the pilot. My understanding is that a lot of people like to go with attrition repeaters, so I've got the attritions equipped. We're gonna see how these work. I have not kept up with the meta. I have no idea, what's popular, what works, what doesn't. I definitely can feel how much slower they are. The damage is nice. I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like there's a delay between when I squeeze the trigger on my flight stick and when it starts shooting. It's not immediate like the Panthers. I don't like that.
Target destroyed.
Wait, hold up. My bounty didn't complete because I think the pilot is still alive. Oh my gosh. I've never seen this happen. I have an awful idea. CIG, I've never asked for much, but I'm asking this from you right now. Please, please let this work. I need this to work so bad. Light 'em up. Oh, it didn't complete the bounty. Well, that's disappointing. Where's the guy? He's gone. That sucks. Alright, I'm just gonna have to abandon this one. Yeah, maneuverability feels pretty good. I'm not really having a hard time keeping my nose towards the target. I mean, obviously, these little fighters can get around me, but it hasn't been a huge deal. I am worried about the shields. The Asgard has 4 size 2 shields, and the default setup gives you 18,960 shield hit points. The problem is that it's a bubble shield. I feel like a ship of this size, and for its role, it should have quadrant shields. I don't think anything bigger than a fighter should have bubble shields, to be honest. Okay, I shit you not. I fought this stupid thing for 15 minutes. And the only thing that I damaged were the external fuel tanks on the Starfarer. I suspect that it has some kind of bug. In every patch that I've played, there's always some ship that just has like an invulnerability bug. Well, you know, like its shields won't go down or parts of its hull are invulnerable. And I feel like that has to be the case because I tried to flush this piece of shit for a quarter of an hour and it would not go down. Meanwhile, I'm taking damage, right? You know, my hull is turning red over time. You know, I will choose to self-destruct before I allow a starfarer to destroy me. Death before dishonor. So, time to test cargo. And I'm just gonna go up to Port Tressler and stack up a bunch of missions, just like I did with the Starlancer Max. And for absolutely no reason, I decided to get this shot just using VTOL to get out of the atmosphere. I think it looked pretty cool. So I stack up a bunch of missions using my spreadsheet, of course. Start getting my cargo loaded by location. And as I am starting with this first set of boxes, I am beginning to worry about how this is going to actually work with keeping my boxes separated so that they don't get mixed up. I had imagined that I would just leave like a 1 SCU wide gap between each set of cargo, but I quickly kind of realized that like I probably would not have enough room to do that. So I'm just going to have to put these stacks up against each other and just hope that I remember where one ends and the other begins. I have some issues trying to get the boxes stacked all the way to the ceiling. They get kind of stuck on these struts. So I get the whole thing loaded, and having to like carefully stack things instead of just throwing it on the ship and being done with it like I can with the Starlancer because I have so much space. That did actually slow things down quite a bit. The process of loading the ship took quite a bit longer than I would have liked. The grid on the Asgard is pretty sizable, and I thought that just having all the cargo in one location would make things fast, but it just turned out that because I have to confine all the cargo to one space, I have to be extra careful about not just mixing up the cargo, but making sure that I have enough room for everything. You know, on the Starlancer Max, I was just able to kind of throw boxes on there, because I have plenty of room. Most of my runs, I don't even use half of its capacity, which is kind of why I was thinking that maybe the Asgard would be the way to go for me, because the cargo grid is more appropriate for the amount of cargo that I like to move. So I get to New Babbage, and my thought was I'll put the Atlas in the elevator and pull things towards me. Then I quickly realized that the interior is so dark that I can't see which boxes that I'm grabbing, so it would be very easy for me to accidentally pull a box from the wrong stack and load it onto the elevator. So I end up moving the Atlas, not inside, but I move it onto the ramp. And that works pretty well. I'm able to access all the boxes. Then I get to the end and realize that there's actually a couple loose boxes that may have gotten knocked loose while I was pulling things out, and I'm not sure which stack they belong to. But my hunch is that they belong to the New Babbage stack. That turns out to be correct, thankfully. I guess it just kind of serves as an example of how things could go wrong. Everything's green, everything's good. We're done with our first stop.
Anvil Aerospace. All systems on.
And on to Grey Cat. Oh, fuck. I feel like my chances of getting cargo mixed up have just increased. And of course, this being our last stop, you know, there is really nothing to worry about, so. Aside from having to be more diligent about stacking things and organizing things, running cargo with the Asgard is fine. There's no real issues. But all in all, we made 680,500. So, you know, it's fine for doing cargo. I don't really have any issues with it. But I do kind of feel like I kind of missed my Starlancer Max and some of the features that it has. Features that a lot of people feel are really inconvenient, for me have actually been a benefit. But anyways, the next thing I want to test is using the Asgard to serve as a mothership for the Drake Golem and carry some extra ore pods. Now I have very delicately stored 4 ore pods. Yeah, I have concerns about how this is gonna go. It doesn't seem worthwhile if I could only bring 2, so hopefully we can just make this work. Alright, I think we are in. I've got a little hole that I can get to my ladder. You know, I could go anywhere, but I've been wanting to see what's going on Terminus in Pyro. This turned out to be a huge mistake. The process of just getting to Pyro was an absolute shit show. I had so many issues, but I finally get to Pyro and jump to Ruin Station. Server error, of course. We get back in. I'm still in Pyro. I'm able to get to Ruin Station. I do have an issue with being sort of stuck inside the ship. So I wrestled with this for quite a while. Eventually, the game server had just had enough of my bullshit and despawned the Drake Golem, and I had to claim it. So finally get on my way to Terminus. And it's worth pointing out that at this point, from when I first began preparing to go mining on Terminus, to right now, me actually being in the atmosphere, preparing to land and get the Drake Golem out and go mining, this is hours. Hours have passed. The server errors, backspacing and being sent back to the wrong hospital, or being stuck at Pyro Gateway with hangars that would not work. It was just an absolute disaster. And oh, by the way, one of the 4 bags that I brought with me just bounced its way out of the ship and is lost. So I'm down to 3 ore pods, and really I'm just going to use the 2. So I'm gonna ditch the 3rd one. And so this rock, which is, you know, a modest size, a decent amount of Stileron, which is very valuable. I ended up, you know, putting way too much power in it and probably lost a bunch of material. But I scoop up what I can, and I actually filled up the golem. So I head back to swap out my bags. And now that we have changed out the ore pods, it's back to work. And very quickly, fill up the second set of bags. And now I'm definitely inclined to think that this is not worth it. This was a pain in the ass to set up. Setting aside all the bugs and the issues that I ran into, it's still just a pain in the ass. You know, bringing 4 ore pods with me was not viable. They did not stay inside the ship. So if I'm limited to 2, that means that I'm really only saving myself 1 trip to the refinery. Is it worth all of this? And for me, I think the answer is no. I think it would have been better to instead load up the Asgard with a bunch of ore pods, take it down to the planet, and then backspace to, you know, Ruin Station and just fly the golem down. Just kind of use the Asgard as a home base. That might be worth it. I don't know. In any event, I've filled up all my bags. Time to just head back and see what I've got. One more thing. I almost forgot. Fuck you. So the Drake Golem holds 32 SCU with an extra set of ore pods. That gives me 64. Of all of that, only about half of it ended up being material that was worth refining. Now granted, I was not being super picky because, frankly, after everything that I had been through, I was just running out of patience. I think between the Stellaron, the Bexelite, the Gold, the Terranite, I should be looking at about 318,000. I'm gonna go with the Dynex solvenation process method because it is going to cost the least and give us the highest yield. But here's the thing. It's gonna take 43 hours. It's gonna cost me 15,000. And if I add in all the quantum fuel that I used, I think I spent probably about 12K in quantum fuel. All of that's coming out of my 318. And this whole ordeal took several hours of time. After all that, you know, I'm probably going to be left with about 290K. And I'm just left feeling like if I had done literally anything else, it would have been a better use of my time. If I had brought a rock with me, I would have made a killing. Terminus is great for rock mining. There are Feinmeline clusters all over the place. Gigantic clusters of 20 plus rocks. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed with this whole endeavor. And the only thing left to do is just crack open a cold one. Fuck this guy too. I think the idea of the Drake Golem Mothership I have ruled out. I don't think that it's worth it. Cargo is fine. It's a good cargo grid, but because of, you know, the way that I do like mission stacking, I do have to be super careful about getting boxes mixed up, which is not a thing that I have to worry about with the Starlancer. As far as combat goes, I think it's fine. As much as I like the ship, I like his vibes, but I can't see replacing my Starlancer with it. I am still wondering about the Starlancer TAC. I've been wondering if it would be worth giving up more than half of my cargo capacity in exchange for 2 size 3 shields and medical beds. That is a question that I will have to explore in another video. But if you made it all the way to the very end, I thank you so much. You are truly wonderful, and I hope you have a lovely day.